All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 428, Space and Technology. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. If you would like to engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Docket in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you're trying to get into IT for the first time and need some guidance, we do offer IT mentorship. If you're trying to transition from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you have questions about your resume or cover letter and salaries or wages, we do offer guidance in that area as well. If you're in the tri-state area and you're looking for IT contract work, Nagone 11 does have contracts on the table. If you're interested in any life coaching, Reigning Woman does offer life coaching. She is in the chat. Subscribe to her channel and let her know that you're interested. Yo, what's going on, Complex?
Mike, what it do, man?
All right, let's get started with the first item on the docket from physics.org. New clues to help explain how a 2,600-year-old brain survived to modern times. Interesting. An international team of researchers has found a clue to explain how a 2,600-year-old brain could have survived until modern times in a mud pit. In their paper published in the Journal of the Royal Society Interface, the group describes their study of the brain sample known as the Heslington brain and what they found. Back in 2008, a team of archaeologists unearthed a skull near the British village of Heslington, and to their surprise, it contained a small amount of brain tissue. It had been sitting in a waterlogged pit. And even more mysteriously, no other parts of the head, such as hair, were in evidence. Later studies showed the skull to be approximately 2,600 years old and from a male. Study of the skull also suggests the man had likely been decapitated. Wow. But the big question was how the brain tissue survived for so long. Typically, brain matter starts to decay just moments after death due to its heavy fat content. As part of later studies, these researchers found that no attempt had been made to preserve the brain, making its condition all the more mysterious. In this new effort, the researchers took a new look at the brain matter to see if they could unlock its secrets. This time, they studied it at a molecular level, looking specifically for evidence of proteins known to be hardier than other types of material in the brain. The researchers report that they found evidence of over 800 proteins in the brain sample, some of which were in good condition. They were still able to work up an immune response. They also found that the proteins had folded themselves into what their researchers described as tightly packed, stable aggregates, which they noted were more stable than those found in a typical living brain today. They suggest such aggregate formation may at least partly explain how the brain, this is spelled wrong, how the brain matter was able to stave off decomposition. The researchers noted that the environment in which the skull was found might have helped too. The cold, wet, fine-grained sediment may have locked out oxygen that flesh-eating microorganisms would have needed to survive. Very interesting, man. That's something, man. But he was decapitated though. Crazy. That is absolutely crazy. I wonder how many this is interesting because when they discover in Africa how many mummies or bodies have been wrapped in tombs and whatnot, man, they found these people intact too, which is very interesting, man. I mean, you have to be very intelligent to preserve a body, but I'm not saying that this was an intelligent move here. I'm saying this was a luck of the draw. But even the Africans, man, the Cometians, man, they were able to preserve people's bodies and preserve their their organs and stuff like that. Just really, really scientific stuff that they were doing back then, but people don't want to really give them credit for. Yeah, we only got like 6 likes in here, but we got like 15 people. Please hit the like button if you're not going to participate.
Yeah, there's a few other live streams probably that's going on, but
Yeah, but there's double the amount of people watching than there are liking it. So
right, yeah, and it does kind of trip the algorithm a little bit when you guys do hit that thumbs up.
Yeah, but to this article, man, I find this to be very fascinating, man. I wish Dr. Phoenix was here so he can actually contribute his opinion on this, because I don't even know which side of science you would get in on something like this. Kind of medical. A medical forensics examiner would actually be able to determine, at the bare minimum, at the fraction of what this was. But
well, that's what I mean, isn't it? Wouldn't that be like a medical forensics person or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not particularly sure who, which line of education or academia that you would enroll in order to be adept at this type of stuff, man.
I mean, would it be something, or maybe like like an archaeologist, right? But then they go to a forensics specialist, right? That gives them like analysis, maybe like a co-partnership or something like that, or
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
yeah, Dr. Phoenix would be the dude to kind of give us some insight as to,
yeah,
where this falls, right?
mhm. Right. There's a variety of ways you could probably go about this now with technology, but man, someone's brain is in full, is fully intact. I mean, obviously, it's the color has faded, right? I mean, I think most brains are usually pink or something like that um, when they're active. So um,
Yeah.
it does look like something that you would buy from like a bodega or some kind of hood store. One of those big ass jars, man, full of water, man.
Man, what the hell do they have in bodegas on the East Coast, bro? I would never see anything like this on the shelves in any store anywhere here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they put in that thing. Could be pig feet, pig this, pig.
That shit looks like some chitlins.
Yeah, shitlins.
That's what that shit looks like right there. That's what that looks like. That looks like some chitlins. Hey, Mike, you're muted. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, there you go. All right.
All right, next item on the docket is from space.com. A Mars sample return mission is coming. Scientists want the public to know what to expect. This is an illustration of them setting it back up. The first pristine pieces of Mars won't be coming down to Earth for at least another decade. But the time to start preparing society for the epic arrival is now, scientists say. NASA's 2020 Mars rover is scheduled to launch in July of this year and land inside the red planet's 28-mile wide Jezero crater next February. The six-wheel robot will do a variety of work once it gets there, but its headline task is hunting for signs of ancient Mars life. Mars 2020 will do this on the ground in Jezero, which hosted a lake and a river delta billions of years ago. The rover will also collect and cache promising samples of eventual return to Earth, which scientists in well-equipped labs around the world can scrutinize them and extract in detail any evidence of Martian organisms. That thing is massive as a robot, man. When we think about robots, man, we always think about like a DJI drone or something like that, something small, man. But this is like the size of a SUV.
Mm-hmm. So their whole aim is to send something there and then have that thing come back.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
NASA and European Space Agency ESA will work together to get those samples here. The current plan, which is not yet official, envisions two key launches in 2026. These will send ESA's Earth Return Orbiter (ERO) and NASA's Return Sample Retrieval Lander (SRL) mission toward the red planet. ERO will make its way to Mars orbit, whereas SRO will drop a stationary lander. The ESA provided Sample Fetch Rover (SFR) and a small rocket called the Mars Ascent Vehicle (MAV) near the Mars 2020 landing site. The SFR will pick up the cache Mars 2020 samples, which will be encased in steel tubes, and haul them back to the MAV. Mars 2020 may store some of its samples on its body. If that's the case, the NASA rover could roll over to the MAV and make a deposit as well. The MAV will then return into Mars orbit, where it will deploy the container harboring the samples. The ERO will pluck this precarious cargo out of the void and haul it back towards Earth, jettisoning the container once our planet is in the crosshairs. The samples will land here in 2031 if all goes according to this preliminary plan. This is interesting because I'm not going to read this whole thing because I don't think it's really relevant here. But what I find interesting is that the process that they're going with. The process that they're going with is that it's a very slow pace, because for me, the way how I look at this is that they should actually deliver it to the moon or something like that, or to the to another space station and do all the work up there rather than wait for it to come all the way back to Earth. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I thought that was the whole purpose of having a space station.
Okay. I can see that. I can also see how there's an extra layer of complexity. Because there's now 2 launch and dockings instead of 1. Right? So if we apply some Occam's razor to this, then the simplest method would just go ahead and just do a straight shot. So I can see the logic in both, right? I think, though, in order to pull off what you're talking about, you would have to have the moon-based technology to accommodate departing and returning trips, right? As a way station, if you will, and then from the moon comes back down to terrestrial Earth. So I think it's really a technological race to do that, because if you can create like a way station, then that like a hub, a galactic hub or some kind, where various payloads can dock. You know what I mean? As kind of like a transfer mechanism, if that infrastructure is there, then totally. But I think as it stands right now, just looking at what their objective is, you got to straight shot it. You got to go to Mars, put the apparatus there, and then they count on it doing a straight shot back.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, we got a thumbs down already. Interesting.
What the hell? Okay. Oh my God.
Well, the title of the live stream does create some adversarial views. So for those who hold on to their hashtags.
I guess.
All right, sciencealert.com. Astronomers have tracked a repeating radio signal across space to an unexpected origin. A mysterious repeating radio signal from space revealed last year is now the 5th fast radio burst to be tracked back to its source galaxy. It's a location unlike any of the others, and astronomers are having to rethink their previous assumptions about how these signals are generated. The origin of this repeating signal is a spiral galaxy located 500 million light years from Earth, making it the closest known source of what we call fast radio bursts, FRBs, yet. And the FRBs are emanating specifically from a region just 7 light years across, a region that's alive with star formation. This object's location is radically different from that of not only the previous located repeat in FRB, but also all previous studied FRB, said astronomer Kenzie Nemo of the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. This blurs the differences between repeating and non-repeating fast radio bursts. It may be that FRBs are produced in a large zoo of locations across the universe and just require some specific conditions to be visible. Fast radio bursts are among the universe's strangest mysteries. They are extremely brief spikes in electromagnetic radiation detected by radio telescopes, lasting no more than a few milliseconds at most. But in that time, they can discharge more energy than 500 million suns. Interesting. Most of the fast radio bursts detected to date have only appeared once. These are impossible to predict, which makes them extremely difficult to trace. To date, only 3 have had their origin localized to a galaxy. But in recent years, we've begun to find FRBs that repeat, popping off repeat signals with no discernible pattern. And in 2017, scientists managed to track down the origin of one of them. Then last year, scientists announced that the CHIME experiment in Canada had detected a massive 8 new repeating FRBs, bringing the number of known repeaters to a total of 10. It is one of these new repeaters, a signal called FRB, I'm not going to repeat that number, that astronomers have traced. An international team of astronomers used 8 telescopes participating in the European Very Long Baseline Interferometry network to conduct follow-up observations in the direction of FRB 18916. Over the course of 5 hours, they detected 4 more bursts, which allowed them to home in on the source of the signal. And that led them to a normal spiral galaxy called, I'm not going to repeat that. The first repeating fast radio burst to be localized was FRB 121-102. It was found to be emanating from a dwarf galaxy poor in metals over 3 billion light years away. And the signal had been distorted by something called the Faraday effect, which occurs when electromagnetic radiation interacts with a magnetic field. This suggested that FRB 121-102 was produced in an extreme environment like the region around a supermassive black hole at the galactic center. Interestingly, it too seemed to be close to a star-forming region. The 3 other non-repeating FRBs, on the other hand, were found in much more conventional galaxies, but only one of them was near a star-forming region. FRB 18916 was not nearly as distorted by the Faraday effect as FRB 121-102, which indicates that its location was not as magnetic, and it was found pretty far from the galactic center. The multiple flashes that we witnessed in the first repeating FRB arose from very particular and extreme conditions inside a very tiny dwarf galaxy, said astronomers Benito Marcote of the Joint Institute for VLBI, Eric. The discovery represented the first piece of the puzzle, but it also raised more questions than it solved, such as whether there was a fundamental difference between repeating and non-repeating FRBs. Now we have localized a second repeating FRB, which challenges our previous ideas on what the source of these bursts could be. Possible explanations for FRBs put forward to date include neutron stars, black holes, pulsars with companion stars, imploding pulsars, a type of star called a blitzar, a connection with gamma ray bursts, which we now know can be caused by colliding neutron stars, and magnetars emitting giant flares. This research has not answered that burning question, but it could be starting to help rule out what it isn't. With the characterization of the source, the argument against this is spelled wrong, against pulsar-like emission as origin for repeating FRBs is gaining strength, said Ramesh of the Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy in Germany. We are at the verge of more such localizations brought about by the coming upcoming new telescopes. These will finally allow us to establish the true nature of these sources. This is going to be very interesting. I am not an astronomer or anything like that, or involved in radio telescope research. But what it sounds to me is that something is happening, but it's echoing and reverberating throughout its travel. And the radio telescopes are picking up the percussions that is letting off.
You know, we always hear about these types of things, that they discover this stuff where they pick it up on radar, and then it kind of goes, it kind of goes away. You don't hear about it anymore. And I'm always curious about what happens when they data log this type of stuff, right? When they pinpoint it, and and they record it, because maybe I can point to a good 10, 12 times, dozen times over the last 10, 20 years where you've heard these sorts of announcements where, there's been some sort of identification of a signal coming from somewhere, but then you never hear about what happens after that. That's what's always kind of intrigued me about, this type of news. I'm like, okay, so now what happened? Did you end up decoding it? Did you decode it and then send a message back? Like, what happened? You never hear that part of it. You just, I'm always like intrigued by this type of stuff, man. It always kind of piques my interest. I'm like, okay, so when you guys discovered the last couple of times, or picked up something, what happened with that? So yeah,
because I think what's happening, these are explosions going on, but what exactly is exploding? That's the only thing I can come to a conclusion on. I don't think, because it's happening, every few milliseconds.
mm-hmm.
And if it's traveling at the distance that it's traveling at, that means it happened a long, long time ago.
Right.
At the distance and the rate that it's traveling, it happened at we don't know how many years and years and years and decades ago it probably happened, but it's just now catching up, right? So I assume that something exploded. Maybe they might have been asteroids hitting something and collided with something, causing around
right.
So,
and I think sometimes we may erroneously assume that it's some fucking off-world civilization or something like that, because how oftentimes we may sort of over sensationalize, what goes on above our heads, right? Not everything is a spaceship,
right?
You know what I mean? So it could very much be something very the term they give it is astroarchaeological in nature, right?
Okay.
Archaeoastrology is an actual branch of astronomy. Look that up.
Well, I'd rather call them outworldly. All right, okay, go ahead, guys.
Oh, you know what? You call it what you want to then, dude.
What's good? What's going on, guys?
Chill, man. What's going on?
All right.
Yeah. Let's get to next one on the docket from CNN.com. A huge meteorite smashed into Earth nearly 800,000 years ago. We may have finally found the crater. One of the largest known meteorites to hit Earth struck nearly 800,000 years ago, but the exact spot where it smashed into our planet has been a mystery. Until now, the crater may lie beneath lava in a 910 cubic kilometer area of the Bolivian Plateau, a volcanic field in the Southeast Asian nation of Laos. Where's Zone at? Teach us a thing or two about this. This is all poorly written. According to a paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences Journal, A meteorite is an object from space that survived a trip through the atmosphere and falls on Earth's surface. The meteorite that crashed into Earth over 790,000 years ago was 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles wide. And the impact was so great that debris was flung across Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. Damn.
Holy shit! I mean, that's massive, and at the
Yeah.
speed it with
Mhm.
that'd have been like that'd have been like a a couple of nukes going off.
A lot more nukes than that.
Yeah.
Probably about 100 or so.
Yeah.
The first clues leading to the impact site from small pebble-like glassy objects called techites. Scientists believe tektites formed from Earth material that melted upon meteorite impact and were thrown into the atmosphere before falling back to the ground. Their existence means that the impacting meteorite was so large and its velocity was so fast that it was able to melt the rocks that hit it. Professor Kerry Say, principal investigator with the Earth Observatory of Singapore, and one of the paper's authors, told CNN, tektites between 750,000 to 35.5 million years ago, million years old, have been found across the planet in areas called strewn fields. These strewn fields are found on every continent except Antarctica. According to the Jackson School Museum of Earth History at the University of Texas at Austin, scientists have largely been able to determine the source crater for tektites, with the exception of one, the Australasian field. It extends all the way from southern China to South Australia, and is the largest known tektite field, covering about 10% of the Earth's surface. There have been many attempts to find the impact site, and many suggestions ranging from northern Cambodia to central Laos, and even southern China, and from eastern Thailand to offshore Vietnam. But our study is the first to put together so many lines of evidence, ranging from the chemical nature of the tektites to their physical characteristics, and from gravity measurements to measurements of the age of the lavas that could bury the crater. Based on the scientists' calculation, the hidden impact crater that produced the vast Australasian field of strewn tektites is about 13 kilometers or 8 miles wide and 17 kilometers long, 11 miles long. But more still has to be done to confirm the theory. Scientists will need to drill down a few hundred meters to see if the rocks below the lavas are indeed the rocks you'd expect at an impact site. That is, lots of evidence for melting and shattering sites. Say said. That electric bike is really cool.
Yeah, I peeped that too.
Yeah, so maybe that's why Vietnam, Laos, and Laos, I should say, Cambodia, and all these places all broken apart. Could be very interesting. Could tell a lot of information about their people as well.
You got to figure also that there've probably been many of these meteor strikes over the millennium and maybe over the eons, which could have played a huge role in the in the topography of the Earth, shape of human continents, or how things may have moved. And I know they talk about the dinosaurs were eliminated potentially by this. Who knows? But it seems from what we see in the ancient pyramids and so forth, we see melting of rock and stone. Who knows? Could there have been a meteor strike in the desert somewhere or something else like that could have, destroyed some civilizations or whatever? You just don't know. It just seems like, there's a lot of debris that fall from space, and something that could be a kilometer, a click wide, moving at 200,000 miles an hour, something insane. It's some insane speed. My God, who knows what could you know, who knows what could that be? I suspect that we've had quite a few of those hit here, and has definitely had an effect on the Earth, even with respect to wildlife as well.
Well, it sounds to me. Let me. All right, let me get back to this. Yeah, it sounds to me that I think the United States has a couple of craters itself, right? Nevada.
Yeah, out in Arizona, they have one out in Arizona. They have one out in Nevada. I mean, these craters are wide. These huge
Yeah,
craters, huge.
yeah. What's the one in Arizona? I know that one. What's the
I forget. I'm forgetting the
Sedona.
name. Yes.
Sedona, man. My mom's family's from Arizona, man.
Okay.
Very good, my man.
I've been going to, man, look, dude, like I've been visiting Arizona since I was a kid.
Right.
And Arizona is a very majestic place, man. It's very ancient. Let me just say
It
that.
is. It is. It is. It is. Though, they show you where there was a lot of water. Potentially, there was water there, and then in some, millions of years ago, it seemed, and then this just turned out to be an arid place. Such the Spanish took the term Arizona, meaning an arid, dry zone, a dry place. But yeah, but it did have water millions of years ago. So meteor strikes have I think have hit. I think some of the biggest strikes we've had are probably at the bottom of the of our oceans that we probably can't see right now, that were probably above ground. Many millions and have disappeared, and we don't even know about them. But I believe that meteor strikes have been a very big part of Earth, has been a very big part of our development. And it is my understanding from some scientists who say that literally water and maybe even life and so forth that we have here was potentially brought to us by way of large meteors that crashed here, and some had a lot of ice and water and so
The
forth.
biblical deluge
Help to do that. I think as scientists look deeper into some of these things and the biblical stuff, I don't think these guys were too far off the mark on some of the stuff that they say, even though it may sound like folklore and and myth. I think there's a lot of truth in some of these myths now as we look back. I think that's been part of some of the ancient historical records that have been lost, but have been maintained through some of these oral and written traditions that we have in some of these religions that I think are absolutely true. Are absolutely true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they say Grand Canyon had water flowing through it at one point. You would never know that though if you just looked at it.
Yeah, but we can certainly see fossils sitting at the very top of the Andean mountains that were underwater, seashells and that kind of stuff. Fossils of hundreds of millions of years old, and now they were once at the very bottom of the planet with respect to the deepest oceans. Now they're at the very top of reaching the skies. So,
do you think the water might have been like the movie Deep Impact, where the water might have washed its way right back into that area and brought all that stuff up from there?
I think it's entirely possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good movie. If anybody hasn't watched that since 1998, man, that's a very good movie.
Yeah, great movie. But this is entirely possible. So what we see, and we do see where there shapes we can see from space that look like they may have been very large impacts, but now we're kind of covered by forested areas and so forth. But it looks like we see deep impacts there. So I think this has been a natural phenomenon of the Earth. Maybe since man's epoch has not been as long, we can't, chronicle the history, because these things may happen every, 50 or 100,000 years or something. So, our memory, since we're an amnesiac people, we may lose record of this, or lose memory of this through the written record. So, we may not be aware that these things happen, but I think these from what we can see, it looks like this may be a natural occurrence of the activities of the Earth. And we certainly saw some very frightening stuff, but was actually spectacular as well, with those series of meteors hitting Jupiter.
Yeah.
As we saw, and we had very active records of that. And we saw those meteors actually hit Jupiter, which is really a more of a gas planet. But yet these things hit with such impact, even through the gas, that the impacts stayed around, for quite a few months. And then we're talking about winds and stuff on Jupiter, flowing at over 800, 900 miles an hour, and yet these impacts still through the very thick gas was still evident months later. So it just showed you just kind of the kind of damage or the kind of energy that they bring into a planet. If they hit, they hit with extraordinary force, and this is ultimately we're seeing it at this stage of the game. It's not unusual. It's something that happens pretty routinely.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's a good point about Jupiter. But we were talking about this before you came on. These radio signals, these frequent bursts that are coming throughout the galaxy that these radio telescopes are picking up, every few milliseconds. Maybe just like Jupiter was hit multiple times, maybe a lot of that is going out, so many light years away that, other planets that are forming or have formed are being impacted as well. And then we're hearing the repercussions of it right now, as it probably happened maybe 100+ years ago.
Or could remember, since things travel almost unimpeded throughout space, it could have traveled, who knows, for a million years. We don't know how long these signals. We can kind of get an idea where they're coming from, but how long have they actually been traveling? We're not exactly sure. So it could be 100 years, could be 100,000 years, could be longer. But yeah, these are phenomena throughout the Earth. I mean, throughout the, certainly we can see that throughout the universe. We certainly see that certainly in our own solar system. So I don't think our solar system is exceedingly unique in that regard. I think meteors, stuff flying through space is just kind of normal. And I'm of the opinion, as I look at this deeper, that there is a seeding of various planets that could happen, almost like we see, cross-pollination and so forth here on the Earth by certain types of plants and so forth that can actually seed a different area far away, be carried throughout the winds and land and have an effect in a different area. I think that might be very much the case in space as well, where you might have an impact that could hit so hard, blast material into space, and then it could float out there for eons and then come across another planet and land, and next thing you know, something could be happening there as well. This is very, very, very possible to me, and quite logical in so many ways, as we see this kind of activity going forth. Can you imagine that impact of this meteor hitting the Earth at an incredible amount of speed? Hitting with thousands of megatons of explosive force, and what that must have been like. What that must have been like. It must have shook the Earth. The weather must have changed immediately right around that area for a second. You might have had global cold hitting there for a period. Who knows?
It was atomic, man. That stuff is atomic. When it hits, I mean, just about everything that's in the vicinity is vaporized.
Vaporized, instantaneous heat. The heat of the sun would be on the ground, so anything around would be totally evaporated. And then what about the dust cloud that could have come up and could have blotted out the sun for who knows for how long?
Maybe that's where the dusty beta male cool comes from.
Maybe that's what the dusties.
All the dusties. All the dusties running around here. That's where they came from.
Wait a minute. Did we just stumble upon an origin story?
There's an origin story. That's the origin of the dusties, bro.
Came from a planet. Dusty Nigeritis.
The planet, the dusty
Holy
BMC.
shit.
the interracial, interterrestrial.
It's swirled
It's the
around
holy
world.
fucking grail.
The cosmic swirling.
Oh man.
DBM.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Negatron, Dusty Negatron, man.
Incredible.
Let me read this article real quick. This is from futurism.com. On Tuesday, a Space Dragon capsule splashed down in the Pacific Ocean, bringing with it 3,800 pounds of cargo from the International Space Station. The cargo delivery included 40 mice, 8 of which scientists genetically engineered to be extremely muscular. And now that they are back on Earth, the mighty mice may yield insights that could help human astronauts stay healthy in space. The 40 mice arrived on the ISS on December 8th as part of Rodent Research 19, an experiment designed to improve scientists' understanding how microgravity affects the muscles and bone loss. Researchers engineered the 8 super buff rodents to lack the protein myosin, which caused them to have about twice the skeletal muscle mass of the average mouse. Additionally, astronauts treated some of the non-genetically engineered mice aboard the ISS with an experimental drug that inhibits myostatin.
It goes myostatin. It's myostatin.
Yes, myostatin.
These are swole mice.
To select too.
Yeah, they say, they highly select. These are jawline mice, man. These are jawline mice, man. They're jawline.
Crazy. Workout of the day, man. He said jawline mice.
They jawline mice, man.
Now that mighty mice and their companions are back on Earth, researchers can study rodents looking for ways to manipulate myostatin to address human muscle and bone loss. The knowledge we gain about microgravity's effects on muscles and bones will help us to enhance the health of astronauts, both in space and on Earth. And also better understand the promise that myostatin inhibitors hold for the elderly, people who are bedridden, and for people experiencing muscle wasting related to diseases like AIDS, ALS, cancer, and so many others. Interesting, because we covered an article months ago, last year, sometime early last year, where they had these electro transmitters on the brains of the mice and on the brains of a human, and they were actually able to create telepathy between the human and the mice.
Yeah, I remember that. We covered that, and then Super Triz did a follow-up on that. Matter of fact, I think it's called like his second Age of Aquarius video.
Yeah.
He based a whole entire hangout on that article that we covered about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I noticed. I seen the mice around my house. We don't need no telepathy. They know exactly what to do.
They got smartphones, bro.
Torn out the frame.
What's that?
Got torn out the frame.
Torn out the frame.
Mm-hmm.
They know. They know telepathy there. They know what's coming down the pike. So.
Yeah, that's crazy though. I mean, the ability to have 5G telepathy for mice, because they said in the article the mice were able to determine what the human was thinking. They actually were mimicking the human's thoughts. Imagine that.
Uh-oh.
I mean, you have to look at it. The mammalian, neurology, even though it's not exactly the same, we kind of operate kind of the same operating system in so many ways. We all got like Unix boxes. You know what I'm saying?
We all have endocannabinoid systems. That's what links us.
So it's mammalian. It's close. It's different. It's close. So yeah, the thought processes and so forth are not going to be that much different. Fight or flight is the same, and they feel stress and everything else like that, pain and all that. I mean, they say, it's I know we like to take a look and say that we're so different, but of mice and men, there's, in some respects, it's not a huge difference.
Yeah, a lot of niggas out here is rats. Anyway.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go
A
to
rat-a-tat-tat.
Physics.org. Hubble detects smallest known dark matter clumps. Poopy galaxy. All right, when searching for dark matter, astronomers must go on a sort of ghost hunt. That's because dark matter is an invisible substance that cannot be seen directly, yet it makes up the bulk of the universe's mass and forms the scaffolding upon which galaxies are built. Dark matter is the gravitational glue that holds galaxies as well as galaxy clusters together. Astronomers can detect its presence indirectly by measuring how its gravity affects stars and galaxies. This mysterious substance is not composed of the same stuff that makes up stars, planets, and people. That material is normal bionic matter consisting of electrons, protons, and neutrons. However, dark matter might be some sort of unknown subatomic particle that interacts weakly with normal matter. A popular theory holds that dark matter particles don't move very fast, which makes it easier for them to clump together. According to this idea, the universe contains a broad range of dark matter concentrations from small to large. Astronomers have detected dark matter clumps around large and medium-sized galaxies. Now, using Hubble and a few observing technique, astronomers have found that dark matter forms much smaller clumps than previously known. The researchers search for small concentrations of dark matter in the Hubble data by measuring how the light from faraway quasars is affected as it travels through space. Quasars are the bright black hole power cores of very distant galaxies. The Hubble images show that the light from these quasars images is warped and magnified by the gravity of massive foreground galaxies in an effect called gravitational lensing. Astronomers use the lensing effect to detect the small dark matter clumps. The clumps are located along the telescope's lines of sight to the quasars, as well as in and around the foreground lensing galaxies. These are images here. Using NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and a new observing technique, astronomers have found that dark matter forms much smaller clumps than previously known. The result confirms one of the fundamental predictions of the widely accepted cold dark matter theory. All galaxies, according to this theory, form and are embedded within clouds of dark matter. Dark matter itself consists of slow-moving or cold particles that come together to form structures ranging from hundreds of thousands of times the mass of the Milky Way galaxy to clumps no more massive than the heft of a commercial airplane. In this context, cold refers to particle speed. And that Hubble telescope is what, 30 years old now?
Yeah, something like that, and still firing back images.
Yeah, and they're replacing it with the James Webb telescope. So imagine that. The James Webb is supposed to be eons better than this thing, from my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Like the predecessor to the Hubble is like gonna be like so much more like better than it, but the Hubble's been so goddamn reliable that
it hasn't. But we have something that can even image greater into the universe. I don't know. I think there are a lot of secrets we can't really explain as to why, when we look deeper into the universe, we see actually looks like galaxies are actually moving away at a speed that would be considered faster than light. And this is not supposed to actually happen. Now, when we look at the four fundamental forces of nature, strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic force, the gravitational force. There's no real explanation for anything that can move faster than the speed of light. But maybe if these forces were actually joined into one super force, you might actually be able to do this. So who knows about what level of physics that we might even further uncover as we're able to image much deeper into the universe, which seems to be endless, which I consider it actually to be. But the secrets that we have out there with respect to matter, dark matter, different forms of matter are absolutely unknown to us, I believe, are absolutely unknown to us. And I don't think the current physics that we do have, which is extensive, explains really, most of this. I think it only elucidates upon a very small amount. I mean, when we look at the Einstein theory and so forth, and then we're looking at other theories with respect to quantum physics and so forth that we look at, which seems to try to explain some of these different states of matter, where literally a neutron or an electron can exist in two different places simultaneously from the same type of system. It's you're not supposed to have two nucleuses that exist simultaneously. This is impossible. But we see this certainly on the quantum level. So I don't know, man. That's why I love science so much. That's why I want my grandson in here and all that. Just getting live into this because this stuff is absolutely fascinating.
Well, the telescopes that you can buy now from Celestron and a couple of those companies, man, have half the power of a Hubble now. We were covering this
Yeah, that's true.
Around like last summer or something like that. And there's a guy on YouTube who has his telescope hooked up to a laptop that streams that stuff into YouTube, man. And I think he goes live like once a month or so. And he was able to see a few galaxies with that telescope, man. He positioned it right. I'm not sure exactly what the model is, but it's so freaking massive, man. It takes like two people to lift it. And it costs like 15 grand.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to image incredible stuff with that. Incredible stuff. I have a Galileo telescope, and I can look right on the moon and look at craters and stuff there. And that shit just sits on the back of my house. I could just sit there and just look at it. Actually, I got it as a gift some years ago, and look right at the moon. No problem. It's like, okay, I can damn near see people almost walking on the bad boy. It's ill, but so anything that's got superpower, any kind of really strong level of magnifying power, it's they're selling those. I know you can buy some telescopes that can get kind of expensive, $4 to $5 grand, but that will give you ridiculous power. But I'd like to get one. I'd love to get one.
Yeah, the one we were looking at last year was like 17 grand. So
yeah. But you have those. That's huge, man. That's massive, and that's pretty expensive. But those that are cheaper that can still give you ridiculous magnifying power as well. So there's some really good stuff out there. There's some really good stuff out there. That's why I say I think that's why I love the sciences, because we've got stuff available now that was not available 30, 40, 50 years ago to the general public.
Hey,
that you can use now and really get a leg up.
Nico, I was just going to ask you, are you familiar with stellarium?
Stellarium.
Stellarium.
Stellarium. Mm-mm.
Right. Okay. So stellarium, and for those of y'all guys listening, you guys really need to check it out. And matter of fact, what you got to do is, if you have kids, get stellarium, and this is a good way to get them into astronomy, because stellarium is essentially, it's an open source astronomy platform. And what you could do is you could actually because I remember when we were talking about this telescope, I think it was like early 2018 when we were talking about this stuff. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to take that $17,000 rig that Mike was talking about, or $7,000, I forgot how much it was, and you're going to plug it into Stellarium. And what happens is that you can pull up the star map on Stellarium, right? So let's say you want to go and look at Aldebaran, right? So you type in Aldebaran, it pulls up its coordinates, and then you hit the go button, and then the telescope will orient itself towards Aldebaran. It'll point right to it. So, and Stellarium is an open source platform. So it's like you can do astronomical exploration just on Stellarium, or you can actually enhance it by having a telescope like what Mike was talking about, plug it into Stellarium, and man, you got like a stupid rig.
Man, that's awesome. You know, I'm sorry, but I'd love to be a little kid right now. I mean, a kid today, just getting into this game.
Right.
I love to be a kid, you know.
Here's one of them right here that we were talking about last year. This is on the cheaper side though.
I remember you guys going over this last. I remember us talking about this.
Massive in size, man. This is not something you you're gonna put in a backpack or anything, man. This you got to bolt this down to your deck or something like that.
And was this $2,600?
This one is 2,600, but the other one that we were looking at was like 14 grand, I think. It was a Celestron. This is a Meteor.
I bet you the $2,600 one, which is not expensive, which is not a whole lot of crazy money. That shit, I bet you was giving you ridiculous peepers. I bet you you're looking past. You're probably looking past Saturn and all that. You're probably looking at some crazy shit.
Man, you seeing shit moving out there, all kind of stuff.
You're seeing crazy shit with this. Crazy shit.
Yeah, dope stuff too, man.
You know, you scoping the rings of Saturn, like checking out what's rolling through there. That's butter laid. I don't care what anybody else says, man. There's nothing that can beat that. That's crazy.
Yeah, here it is right here. That's the telescope here. I forget the one that that guy on YouTube has, man.
This is 12 grand.
This is 13 grand, yeah.
13 grand. That's a nice little piece of change. So you should be getting ridiculous, retarded type of stuff. What are you seeing from there? You're probably looking at other galaxies. You're probably imaging other galaxies from that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were going to do a GoFundMe for one of these, but we kind of backed out of it. But yeah, I plan on getting one, man, as soon as I get my my crib all set up. If I ever move to the continent, man, and live in one of these shipping containers, man, and just mount that sucker on the top of it, where there's no light pollution that you would get in the States. I mean, if you're not going to be in Harlem, on one of these roof decks looking at anything like that. So.
Well, no, in Harlem, yeah, there's no problem. Harlem's nice, man. Harlem's real nice and safe up there. So I would think sitting on one of those rooftops, you could have a grand time doing that from there. You really could. Butter lay time. Just break out the hibachi grill. Grab a couple of cool ones.
Some really good herb.
Nah, man, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that alone.
No. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do.
I don't want to fall off the roof. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, this one is from CompTIA.org. From AI to workforce, 10 initiatives we're excited about in 2020. CompTIA wrapped up another great year in 2019, much of which is highlighted in this recap of our top 20 blogs 2019, but there's a lot to be excited about for 2020 as well. So much momentum and content on the way as we continue efforts to accelerate the adoption of emerging technologies and reinforce the value created by everyone involved in the business of technology. As we continue to develop the content and programs to make that happen, here's a look at 10 things we're excited about in 2020. I'm just going to fly by these really quickly. I want to make sure we go support MOT as he debates. Number one, AI Advisory Council. Number two, certification of data. One of the initiatives AI Council members want CompTIA to explore is the possibility of certifying data created through AI and other processes. The spirit of collaboration. Toward the end of the YEPM conference, 4 advisory councils, blockchain, AI, IoT, and drone, packed together in a ballroom to hash out a goal they can work on together, creating a piece of content that showcases all 4 emerging technologies integrating together in an end-to-end solution. So this is the sort of stuff that's being discussed. And unfortunately, a lot of melanated people are not a part of that discussion. Number 4, blockchain opportunities seem limitless. Do a Google search for blockchain and watch how many photos for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies come up. Of course, blockchain is so much more than Bitcoin, and opinion very much shared by members of the Blockchain Advisory Council. Their frustrations with the perception will lead to a slew of initiatives in 2020, including the development of use cases that demonstrate the power of blockchain, a blockchain glossary and training matrix, as well as content designed to dispel the many myths about blockchain in the market. Thought leaders, industry leaders. Drone industry continues to take flight. CompTIA's presence was felt at almost every major drone UAV conference in 2019, and will continue to work closely with our Drone Advisory Council to tout the innovative innovations and advantages that drones bring to the business world. Meanwhile, CompTIA is also supporting the Aerospace Industry Association on the development of an industry consensus standard that will focus on cybersecurity of unmanned aerial, vehicles. Number 7, business applications marketplace. Number 8 is IoT comes front and center. In 2019, our Smart Cities Advisory Council rebranded itself to the IoT Advisory Council in order to focus on the Internet of all things. The council will be developing more content, including infographics, use cases, white papers, and blogs that highlight outcomes and the impact of IoT solutions in business. Global expansion. Number 9 and number 10 is, and that's only the beginning. So big things to pay attention to, from artificial intelligence to IoT to drones and 5G. We've talked about this many, many times before, and we don't see a whole lot of melanated people at the forefront of all of this. They're not driving these conversations. All right. All right, this one is from the nationalreview.com. Of course, artificial intelligence startups are helping businesses fake diversity. Interesting. Pity the man. Let me expand this out. Pity the man who hates markets, attempt to do away with them, a la Stalin in the 30s or Mao in the 50s. And the rabble will begin to trade illegally. Maintain a command economy long enough, and reformers will arise to push the pendulum in the other direction. So powerful are market forces, in fact, that they direct the politics of the 21st century America as plainly as 20th century Russia and China. Just as Stalinism created the conditions that would yield Nikita Khrushchev and Maoism the soil in which Deng Xiaoping would grow. So the commodity that is Donald Trump was brought by people disappointed with the inauthenticity of previous electoral purchases. For every need, there is a product. That the appearance of diversity is one of the needs of our time, and is a fact evident to anyone who examines a marketing brochure or glances at an institutional website. So necessary is the presence of men and women of color in such materials that more than one organization has stumbled hilariously in the attempt to provide it. The University of Wisconsin-Madison, for example, came under fire some years ago for attempting to Photoshop a young Black man into a picture of students celebrating at a football game. More recently, the University of Texas Arlington and the cereal brand Curves have been accused of doctoring images in the pursuit of diversity office compliance. We talked about this last week at nauseum, but this article hits it on the head. So numerous are the instances of inclusivity-related fakery that scholars have begun to connect it to a larger phenomenon, what Nancy Leong of the University of Denver's Stern College of Law has called racial capitalism. According to Leong, racial capitalism is at work whenever one person or group derives social and economic value from racial identity. As such, the term encompasses not only Republicans' ham-fisted attempts to remind the public of their historic link, Frederick Douglass, but Democrats hand-wringing about the lily whiteness of their top tier of presidential candidates as well. Racial capitalism is the inevitable consequence of the commoditization of Black and brown people in a market economy. It is furthermore an increasingly ruminative proposition in a world in which a surging share of purchasing power lies in the hands of white gentry liberals. Or so one is forced to conclude after reading the Washington Post, which broke on Tuesday the fascinating, if utterly predictable story that artificial intelligence startups have begun offering companies a chance to increase diversity in their ads without needing human beings. According to the Post, one such enterprise, the Argentina-based firm Icons 8, uses artificial intelligence software to provide worry-free, diverse models on demand. One wonders what to make of that worry-free. Another, San Francisco's Rosebud AI, offers clients a chance to purchase AI customized models of different ethnicities. With exactly the humility that one would expect of a tech company, Icons 8 boasted to the Post that its clients already include an American university, a dating app, and a human resources planning firm. Rosebud AI, meanwhile, informed the paper that about 2,000 prospective clients are on the waiting list. Yet, despite these indiscretions, it is a safe bet that both firms will guard their customers' identities as if they were nuclear rods. A compelling argument can be made that diversity ensures the proper use of human capital and guarantees that a multiplicity of perspectives is heard. Pretend diversity, on the other hand, does what exactly? While the fake diversity industry may be unique in its cynicism, sleaziness, and willingness to profit from progressive hypocrisy, important corollaries exist that cast further light on the social mechanisms at work. The first is the Volkswagen emissions scandal of 2015, in which contrived external standards, namely U.S. regulatory specifications, led to shocking and international dishonesty, though Volkswagen's actual crimes in that affair were fraud and false advertising. Its chief moral infraction was arguably two-facedness, gesturing in the direction of a cause, environmentalism, for which it cared nothing in practice. So it will be any American corporation that gets caught doing business with AI fake makers. The backlash against the dishonesty will be significant. The outcry over the faithless allyship will be deafening. The second corollary, and the less obvious of the two, is the hate crime hoax phenomenon that has long bedeviled progressives in the post-civil rights West. Just as manufacturers of hate crime hoaxes are responding to an enticement, a progressive media economy that demands an endless stream of racial offenses, so the fake diversity machine has whirled its way into existence to meet the needs of institutions that want the social rewards of wokeness without the bother of or the expense. Never mind the whether, never mind whether the offenses really happen or the diversity is achieved. The actual people, the less narrative require them, and that requirement cannot go unfulfilled for long in a world populated by human beings. Which brings us back to resilience, the deathlessness of the market. If a consumer wants to feel a certain thing about a race in America to warm himself by the consoling fire of self-regard, a corporation will happily arise to sell him that feeling. This that isn't a corruption of human nature, it's a description of it. We've talked about this many times before about the fake diversity and inclusion. We just talked about that in the last article about how they're having these AI councils and blockchain councils, IoT councils, and Black people are not even a part of that. Talked about last week, big pharma life science companies here in Massachusetts that are given tax incentives to actually create diversity and inclusion that should include a lot of Black people, are not keeping their word or keeping their promise on paper. And so they take these tax incentives, the millions and millions of dollars that they're supposed to create for diversity, and they put it in their pocket and they never really fulfill it. And they're using the AI platforms to actually doctor in Black people where it's convenient for them. And we read an article about maybe 10 days ago of a Black woman who works at Google who said that they hire the whitest of Black people that they can find. So it looks like they're artificially placed inside these environments. And so I bring all of this up so that people can have an understanding of what the future holds for a lot of Black people in America. Oh, my mic is muted the whole entire time, so nobody heard me talking. Shit.
We heard you.
No, we heard you, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm just eating some salad. Sorry.
Yeah, fake diversity, man. It's real, and there's no victim who is greater than the Black male who has been hoodwinked this whole entire time, from Black Lives Matter to the Democratic Party. Everybody has benefited off of the death of Black men and the inconvenience of being a Black man without the Black man being able to say anything about it. He never has a voice in anything. So they'll talk about diversity and inclusion in these brochures and whatnot, and then you get there and there's no such person there. Very important that people pay attention to this. All right, this one is from sciencemag.org. Study identifies a key reason Black scientists are less likely to receive NIH funding. Where's Dr. Phoenix when you need him? Let me expand this out. In 2011, a study by economist Donna Ginther of University of Kansas in Lawrence found that Black applicants were significantly less likely than white participants or applicants to be funded by the National Institutes of Health. Since then, NIH officials have examined a host of factors that might cause the disparity, from the historical advantages that white men enjoy to overt discrimination by grant reviews. But the picture remains cloudy. Now, NIH scientists have identified a key factor that they hadn't previously considered: the topics that Black scientists want to study. Specifically, Black applicants are more likely to propose approaches such as community interventions in topics such as health disparities, adolescents' health, and fertility that receive less competitive scores from reviewers. In a proposal with a poorer score is less likely to be funded. The finding is already prompting discussions about whether the disparity is rooted in NIH's priorities and whether those priorities should be rethought. The study published today in Science Advances is based on some 157,000 proposals submitted between 2011 and 2015 for NIH's bread and butter R01 grants. After analyzing the text, researchers placed each proposal to one of the 150 topic areas. Then they examined 6 factors that could influence the final outcome. They found that 3 contributed to creating the Ginther gap, whether a proposal is scored more than half or not, what score it receives, and the applicant's choice of topic. Among scored proposals, topic choice emerged as the second biggest contributor to the Ginther gap. It trailed only in the applicant's track record, which was the focus of a previous study. Topic choice accounts for 21% of the overall funding disparity, the researchers found. 3 other factors: how frequently scientists sent in proposals, how NIH institutes acted on study section recommendations, and whether a scientist revised a rejected proposal and tried again, were found not to contribute to the gap. Authors reject the idea that an especially harsh study section could contribute to the disparity. As many as 49 different panels received proposals within a particular topic area. Similarly, a single panel handled proposals touching on as many as 27 topics, reducing its influence on any given topic. The paper also reminds readers that numerous analyses have shown that reviewer scores do not predict the ultimate influence of a particular award, as measured by standard metrics such as the number of citations on papers produced by the grant. The study takes a big step towards understanding where the disparity occurs, says co-author James Anderson, who directs NIH's Division of Program Coordination, Planning, and Strategic Initiatives. But it doesn't answer the question of why reviewers are less excited about proposals on topics that disproportionately interest Black scientists here. The study just looked at the numbers. The next step is to ask the people who made the decisions. No such studies are in the works, he adds. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but we'll look at it again later this week, because very important topic, and I want Dr. Phoenix to actually be a part of this. So, Black people being denied, the Black scientists being denied access to the funding from NIH. So.
Well, this goes along the lines of what we've seen, what I consider just sanctions against the Black community. These are another sanctions. You're not getting funded, and plus, it would make sense that many of the Black scientists are going to study issues that are also going to have effects, that are going to affect our community as well. We're going to take a look at that.
That have also been artificially designed by the very same institutions.
Yeah. So they're definitely out to cut you back to the fat meat. But we're sanctioned. Our community has been sanctioned pretty heavily, and that's a problem. NIH. Now they're funded. I know they get government funding as well, so your taxpayers' dollars go into that. So we definitely should be active participants in getting some funding for our projects. But I don't know if a lot of people are even aware that this is even going on.
All right, this one is from futureoftech.org, IoT in the world, Internet of Things. Consider an intersection in a city that's been outfitted with municipal smart technologies. When a smart traffic pole doesn't sense any motion in the intersection, it can turn all of the lights off to save electricity. During the busiest parts of the day, sensors can take a traffic congestion reports, and engineers can then remotely optimize the light change frequency to meet the current traffic needs. Smart traffic signals can give priority to emergency vehicles, mass transit, and cyclists. Cities such as Barcelona, Spain, Manchester, United Kingdom, and Columbus, Ohio are already implementing these technologies, and the government of India launched the Smart Cities mission in 2015 to retrofit and develop 100 cities across the country with smart technologies. There's an almost endless list of ways for smart cities to implement IoT technology. Sensors can monitor the cleanliness of public places like parks, zoos, sidewalks, and town squares. Vehicles can tell each other information about their location, speeds, and occupants to optimize for the least congestion, prevent collisions, and save lives. IoT devices can be used to monitor the structural integrity of buildings and bridges by embedding sensors in wet cement during construction. Buildings themselves can be used as sensors when they are mounted or when they are monitored for vibration. Vibrational data collected from buildings can be used to count the number of occupants inside, track occupants as they move throughout the building, and analyze their grade and stride, potentially predicting when the elderly or ill occupants are about to fall or alerting security to the potential emergency before it even happens. Interesting. In rural areas, farmers are finding surprising number of uses for IoT devices. Irrigation can be automated and crops can be monitored for light, humidity, temperature, soil, moisture, and many more properties that foster growth. The winemaking industry is already examining the benefits of IoT through internet-connected vineyards. Interesting. Autonomous vehicles also have their place on farms. Some startups are already creating self-driving tractors for agricultural use. In addition, herds can be monitored through farm management systems like Moo Monitor and the Silent Herdsman, which uses IoT devices to track dairy cows' health and fertility. Industries like mining are also aided by IoT technology by monitoring the structural integrity of mines and assessing unexplored environments with chemical and gas sensors. IoT devices are improving mine safety. IoT devices will also revolutionize mining on other worlds, along with many other aspects of space exploration. Astronauts face thousands of dangerous variables in space, from zero gravity to cosmic rays to compromised immune systems. With so many strange forces acting on astronauts, IoT devices for health monitoring in space are very important. IoT devices are also found on spacecrafts themselves, collecting data on chemical leaks, air pressure, life support systems, and hull integrity. With all these examples of how the IoT is becoming more and more embedded in our society, it's clear that a lot of data is being collected at all times. What do we do with all that data? Any mortal will just imagine the task of sorting through such immense collections of data and trying to make sense of any of it. Remember the Wi-Fi connected fish tank thermometer. Imagine the thermometer is taking temperature readings every 5 minutes and your goldfish stay alive for 5 years. That's 525,600 readings that sensor will store over the course of your beloved fish's life. But keeping track of all of that data isn't useful unless you can make sense of the temperature trends over time. The enormous amounts of data won't be useful if they are just collected and stored in a virtual warehouse. If no one sees or uses that data, what's the point of collecting it in the first place? Enter big data, a term that refers to the collecting vast amounts of data and analyzing it for patterns and extracting useful information out of it. Big data analytics helps us know what to do in response to the information extracted from all the data collected from IoT devices. So we talked about IoT many times before, but this puts a lot of emphasis behind IoT's uses. So make sure you are paying attention to what we talk about here. Very serious stuff and lucrative.
Hey, Mike, did you check out that that YouTube channel I sent you, that blockchain group?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to sit down. I subscribe to them, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch their content.
Okay, yeah, let's circle back on them after you get a chance to check them out. I'm gonna do the same.
Yep. All right, this one is from Bloomberg.com. Walmart expands its robotic workforce to 650 additional stores. Walmart's robot army is growing. The world's largest retailer will add shelf scanner robots to 650 more U.S. stores by the end of the summer, bringing its fleet to 1,000. Six-foot-tall Bossa Nova devices equipped with 15 cameras each roam aisles and send alerts to store employees. Handled devices when items are out of stock, helping to solve a vexing problem that costs retailers nearly $1 trillion annually, according to researcher IHL Group. The new robots, designed by San Francisco-based Bossa Nova Robots Incorporated, joined the ranks of Walmart's increasingly automated workforce, which also includes devices to scrub floors, unload trucks, gather online grocery orders. They are part of Chief Executive Officer Doug McMillan's push to reduce costs, improve store performance, and gain credibility as a technology innovator as it battles Amazon.com Incorporated. Walmart, it says, the shelf scanners can reduce tasks that once took as long as 2 weeks and into a twice daily routine. Amazing. For every job lost to automation, 2 to 3 are supposed to replace it. I'm not seeing it, fam. Not seeing it. All right, this one's from greenbiz.com. 8 electric truck and van companies to watch in 2020. Oh, BYD, Chanye, Daimler Trucks, interesting. Nikola Motors, Rivian, Tesla, and Volvo, and Workhorse. So we've covered most of these before. Nothing really new there, but pay attention to the stocks. It will matter at some point. All right, here's the last one on the docket. Meet the Zimbabwean building driverless cars in the UK.
Butter laid.
All right, this one's from face-to-faceafrica.com. Posse William Shatidi is a Zimbabwean.
Is this a driverless car?
Yes.
Yep.
Zimbabwean serial entrepreneur who is building driverless cars in the UK using a combination of advanced robotics and driverless vehicle technology. His UK startup, Academy of Robotics, has been working on Cargo, a driverless car to solve the last mile delivery problem. The vehicle has been developed in a collaboration with UK's vehicle licensing authority, the DVLA, to travel on the roads at about 96 kilometers an hour. This is the vehicle here.
This dude did what I was trying to do with open motors, man.
Prior to these amazing cars, Sachidi had
Hey, Mike, blow that up a little bit bigger, Mike. Make that a little bigger. that shit looks like something out of Lost in Space, dude. This shit looks crazy.
Mhm.
Damn. All right.
Sachidi has built quite a number of companies that have been acquired by others. He built My City Venue, an AI-driven experiences platform serving 1.6 million users, which was acquired in 2015 by Secret Escapes. Born in Harare, Zimbabwe, and moving to the UK at 16, Sachidi started out as an entrepreneur when he was only 19. His first startup at 19 was called 123 Registration, a domain registration business which was acquired for an undisclosed amount. Before building My City Venue, Sachidi was on the BBC investment program Dragon's Den, where he pitched a startup, Clever Bins, a solar-powered digital outdoor advertising bins. The company he pitched traded for 3 years and subsequently licensed its technology to 6 countries and local governments before closing in 2013. Sachidi, who started at London School of Economics and Political Science and Aberystwyth, is now the founder and CEO of Academy of Robotics. His autonomous vehicles was launched in 2019 at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK.
Get the hell out of here.
During his trip to the UK, Zimbabwe's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, S.B. Moyo, together with Zimbabwe's ambassador to the UK, inspected the cargo vehicle at an exclusive reception hosted at the Westbury Mayfair Hotel. Sachidi shared his vision to make cargo technology available around the world at the event, which was organized by Conrad Mwaza and the Zimbabwe Achievers Awards team. According to Sachidi, he used Zimbabwe roads to train the car's AI, artificial intelligence. There are some great delivery robots out there, but most of them are designed to run on neat pavement or sidewalks of grid-like cities. We want cargo to be universally applicable. So we have trained our technology in a number of different environments. And of course, for me, Zimbabwe was a natural choice, he said. That's the car at Goodwood's Festival working on its own. Cargo has a software stack that allows it to navigate on unmarked country roads and even without GPS. It works in conjunction with an app where recipients can track their delivery and meet the vehicle just like meeting a pre-booked taxi. Recipients will then use the app to open the hatch to release their specific parcel. Inside the vehicle, a patent package management system will sort and reshuffle packages on the move. Cargo is powered by Tesla batteries and can drive 60 miles an hour and cover around 193 kilometers before it needs recharging.
Word up.
According to TechZim, Cargo uses advanced evolutionary artificial neural networks to train the vehicle in a way that mimics aspects of the nature and biology, helping it to learn from the events in the past and apply this knowledge to new situations it faces.
This is tight. Damn, this is tight.
They don't like you over there, though.
They don't like you.
They don't like you, though.
They don't like
you, though.
Like you, though. Oh, man.
That's the revolutionary terrain training approach. In 2010, Sachidi was nominated for HSBC Startups Stars for his company and innovation Clever Bins. In 2013, he won the Zim Achievers Award in Business Innovation, also for Clever Bins. In 2017, Sachidi got the award for the Aberystwyth Inventor Prize for Cargo, and in the same year, he got nominated for the Wales Startup Awards for the most innovative startup in Wales. Sachidi was also named one of the top 2017 35 under 35 entrepreneurs in Wales. They ain't got no electricity over there, though. Where's the running water, though?
Making electric
They ain't got no running water,
no
though.
Electricity.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't got no electricity, though.
Maybe they don't even have an electric city.
It's a crap hole, though.
Yeah.
Oh, this
People would argue with us and say, "Oh, you Africans aren't 20 years ahead. What are you talking about? Oh, really? show me this happening in this country right now."
Hey man. Mm-hmm. I'm raising my hand.
raise it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. Like people will sit up here and say Africans, they, living in squalor, no electricity, no running water.
No, that's clearly people
That
don't
looks
know.
pretty highly, but that looks highly butter to me, man. I don't know. What do you guys think?
This is highly butter laid. Highly butter laid. Damn. This is highly butter laid. AI and everything. This is highly butter laid. That's all you can say. Wow.
What's hilarious is I dress just like this dude too. That's why I looked at the picture twice. I said, "Oh, does that mean my picture or what?" No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
For
tight.
all the naysayers and all the squawking that people like to do and talk about the continent and the GDP. Here's the GDP right here, buddy.
Well, folks, folks have to be shown. Because this is tight. That's tight. Highly butter.
You're standing right next to it. Don't sit up here and say it ain't being done.
Mm-hmm.
Cats on the continent ain't tapping into this fourth industrial. Like, stop it with all that shit.
Yeah, because he's doing what Waymo is doing. He's doing it with less people.
That's right. That's right, Mike.
He's doing it with less people. Waymo is working.
Great point. That's a great point.
People would sit up here and say, Africans aren't doing this and Africans aren't doing that. I don't know about that, man.
I don't know about that.
He's doing it.
and I'm saying, man, it's the same thing with the micro transport on this side of the pond here, man. It's not as if I haven't already demoed the tech and told y'all, like, holla at your mans if if that's something that tickles your fancy, but don't say like bros ain't out here doing it.
Nah, but some of the stuff that I've heard come out of some brothers' mouths just over the last day or two about other brothers and stuff like that. It's we don't like each other, man. We don't believe in each other. We are not educating each other enough on what the facts are. That's clearly evident. And some of the recriminations and so forth that we have towards each other is disturbing.
I don't know, man. My voice gets hoarse trying to debate these points, man. I'm not going to do any more debating after today. This article seals it for me.
Well, there's no debating, dude. Like, you can't question the nature of someone who's already produced a prototype. See, this is my fundamental problem with people who want to form like opinions and opinion and speculation based arguments. And it's like, dude, you can't argue that against people who actively are involved in it, who are developing the tech, who are prototyping, all that kind of stuff. It's like, you can't argue against people like that.
Yeah, I think this is a really dope idea. I mean, I'm highly impressed by it. I'd love to invest in something like this. I'd love to drop some coin up on it. I believe it can work. I believe it can highly work. I can only imagine, what's behind all of this. This is just a prototype. This isn't even the final production.
Hey, Mike, let's schedule for one of the tech talks. I want to like do a discussion on open motors.
Yep.
The open source EV platform. I'll show my 3D sketch designs and all that, and we'll do a deep dive into open source and EV development, man. Open up a can of worms on these fools.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to the continent, man. I can't wait, man.
It's cracking, dude. Come on, dude. It's cracking.
You see brothers like this walking around, man. And I'm not saying he's in the continent right now. I'm saying he came from the continent. The article explicitly states he came here when he was 19.
Man, look, that brother came from the continent. The brother who made the carbon fiber sports car, hand built. I mean, look, man, stop playing, man. Come on.
Yeah, the Nigerian. I know you talking. We covered that before a couple weeks ago, about a month or so ago. We covered, the young 15-year-old boy, robotics engineer, working on stuff instead of sitting in, on some live stream getting torn out the frame by reptiles. Man, he's sitting in a room in his own innocence, working on stuff.
Well, we this is stuff we have to to just promote this. I was just listening to another live stream before. I'm not gonna mention whose it was, but folks was up in there tearing each other out the frame, talking about I'll put a hot one in you. I'll put a hot one in you, and I'm sitting there saying, son, got to do better than this. So,
yeah.
Mike, it looks like a butter-laid Renault Twizy.
It could very well be, but it seems to carry a significant amount of weight too. So,
yeah. Well, what is the weight on it? Do we know?
It looks like it's about 1,500 pounds, probably.
It looks close to a ton. It does look close to a ton. It does look close to.
Yeah, because if it's battery operated, those batteries where all the weight's coming from.
Yeah,
see, because look, there's not. You see, there's no. There's wheel covering, but there's no fenders, right? So it's kind of like a center pod, and then there's like a platform underneath. But all of it's basically the bubble cockpit construction, and then the wheel coverings. But that saves a lot when you really look at the construction of this car. Especially look at the right front wheel underneath it. You can see under the car right there.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Mike, hey, blow this up a little bit, Mike. Hey, Mike, blow this up a little bit more. Yeah.
Right. Now look on the right front. You can see the inside of the wheel there. So the chassis is kind of set up kind of like a buggy almost.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's kind of what I'm looking at, like a dune buggy type setup. Yep.
Exactly. And see, there's wheel covers on it, right? You see, so the construction of it, the design of it is actually very, and this is what you could do with electric cars. It's very minimalist, so you can maximize on space. So and like I'm just really, as I look at it, I'm like, damn, dude, this is dope. I don't care for the green, but this looks like some butter-laid futuristic shit right here.
He's ahead of the game. He's completely ahead of the game.
Because Tesla hasn't even cranked nothing like this out.
No,
think about it.
They're still working on their neural networks right now. They're in version 3.0 or 3.1, I think, and they're just now deploying it. So, and that's with a massive company that's worth billions of dollars. This is just a startup. Yeah, Engineering Cannabis approves of it. He's in the chat. He approves of it. So, Random Woman says she thinks she can fit in there, although there are no seats in there, from my understanding.
Well, Reigning Woman, is she? Are you short or is she short or tall?
She's 5'1" or something like that.
Engineering Cannabis. Are you sure?
She's a small package. She might be able to fit in there, but there's no seats in there though for some.
Is Engineering Cannabis? Are you sure you brothers are producing this type of stuff here, given that you guys don't have any water and electricity?
Complex, come on. No, but right here, the hub right here that moves the wheels. This is all-wheel drive. This isn't like rear-wheel drive or anything like that. So I'm assuming that the suspension is what do they call it?
A wishbone design.
Yeah, wishbone. Thank you, wishbone.
You think it can hold Lizzo?
It's electric motors, so far more torque. Yeah, it could handle Lizzo's fat ass.
What about Lonnie?
Maybe one at a time, please.
One at a time.
Oh, they couldn't ride together?
No.
What are you trying to do? You trying to fry the motors out?
It's always good to see a brother, man, who's really putting in work, man, and
Lizzo.
what he's doing, man. You know, just it's crazy that I hear these arguments about. I mean, this brother's SYSBM for real, for real.
No, man, he's on some Tony Stark shit, dude. And I'm telling you straight up, man. When we do this EV hangout, when I show you guys like some of the technical sketch designs that I have for the cars that I did, man, some of them look like this. But it wasn't like independent wheel arches. This is a full-on car. You know, actually, Mike, I for inspiration, I used the new Honda CRX that they came out with back in, was it 2010, 2009?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used that one as kind of like an inspiration for it. And there's an open source platform to build this stuff off of, man. Like, people think this shit is a game, dude. Like, there's blueprints that you could download right now and create this shit with it. And it's open source too. So that means you can use it for commercial purposes. Call it all your own. It's like creating your own Linux distro.
Yep. But the way he designed this, man, it has an app to your phone. So he's already banking on the idea, because he's global, right? All of his products that he's designed has gone global, right?
Well, Mike, here's the thing, dude. Like, so it's no different than, like, I would use Lattice for this. Lattice would do the same thing. It's like, I get what he did, man. He just well, you said there was a couple other businesses that he had already established and sold prior to creating this company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so he had the capital investment there, and he also had the tech partners on deck.
No, he's a black Elon Musk.
Yeah, straight up.
He's a black Elon Musk.
Yeah, across all deliverables, lines of deliverables, he's got a partner lined up. Just from prior business, man. I can see how he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see how this is lined out. Yeah, I fear there will be many of these types of designers coming out of Africa over the next 10 years. I feel we will be seeing quite a few of them. This is highly butter laden.
I mean, we covered Udacity. You don't need a big, massive degree for this. You don't need to go.
You need nano degrees, man.
A nano degree would work.
Yeah.
Let me bring that up for
you.
Curious about this.
And this is coming out of creative mind. So, I don't know. Like I said, it's a lot of creativity, intelligence with creativity, and so forth.
Like, literally,
have to come out of. Go ahead.
There's brothers in the manosphere based on some of the technical skill sets that they've already established that they know. They could literally build an electric car if they wanted to.
Certainly. Yeah, somebody like West City could be involved in something like
that. That's
what
I mean. That's why. Hey, Mike, when can we table that?
I will have to do it sometime next week.
That's fine. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's cool. Just let's put it on the docket, and I'll pull up the CAD files and the sketch designs and all that, and we'll talk about what literally from A to Z what to do to build an electric car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is from Udacity. Learn this self-driving car engineer. Learn the skills you need to start or advance a career building self-driving cars and trucks, including Python, C++, ROS, Kalman filters, and much more. Recommended programs, intro to self-driving cars. That's step 1. Step 2 is C++. Step 3 is self-driving car engineer. The concepts covered are computer vision, deep learning, sensor fusion, localization, and self-driving cars. Step 4 is data structures and algorithms. Data structures and algorithms, problem solving, interview, practice problems, and Python. So I'll drop that in the chat because some people might be interested in this. and we'll spend another 5 minutes
There's-
going over this.
I was just going to say, Complex, there's a question for you in the chat.
Oh, can you guys wait? Oh, okay. Wait, I thought I was muted. There's a. Oh, wait. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm technically slow. What's the question? Which question is it?
No, it's a question. Oh, okay. Did you see it?
No. Oh, well, wait, guys, look up.
It's from
No, wait.
Space Cowboy 776.
Oh, will I go over electrical schematics? Not really, because a part of what we'll talk about is the differing layouts or the differing ways you could go about doing it, right? So we'll go over the components, but not really the schematics per se, because it really kind of depends on what you're doing. Are we doing like a single motor 2-wheel drive? Are we doing single motor multi-speed 2-wheel drive? Are we doing in-wheel motor 2-wheel drive, in-wheel motor 4-wheel drive? Are we doing one central motor for the front 2 wheels and then in-wheel motors for the rear? Your schematics are going to depend upon your drivetrain layout. So I have what I was going to base my design around. So yeah, we'll go over something along those lines. Yeah.
Hey, can I say something? You know, this kind of also reminds me a little of the rover that they put on Mars.
Mm-hmm. You know,
It had
as a matter of fact,
yeah.
they're going the open source vehicle platform that I use. There was a design concept that somebody had submitted, and it was actually that it was a rover design. Like they were like, you know what, I'm gonna use this to make like a lunar rover. It was like, whoa, okay. No one, dude, like he caught everybody off guard. It was like a whole designer community platform that I was using at the time, and yeah, some dude just created a lunar rover out of the open source platform. We were like, whoa, okay.
And like, you know, it had 4 independent, you know, each wheel is independently controlled by its own motor.
It,
and so
it
forth.
literally looked like that
No.
that lunar rover that was on the moon or whatever.
It looked like that was on the moon.
It looked like that,
this is
but more like futuristic and electric.
Yeah. They're saying that the next ones they set up they're gonna put a nuclear power pack on it. So you know, however, that's nuclear batteries. You know, that's, you know, where we'll have the ability to last them like 30 years or something of that nature.
Hey man, I'm all about those hemp batteries, bruh.
Man, so am I, fam. we need to get back up on top of that. We need to get back
That's
on
all
top
that.
of
Hey, all of that ties into this shit, bro. All of that ties into this
I'm trying to stack a few shekels right now to play. So, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, look, we're not behind the game, dude. You already know that. We're not behind the game at all.
No. That I know. All the stuff is emerging right now.
Right.
And this is going on for the foreseeable future. But folks are moving. Folks are not standing still.
They are moving. I'm not going to
folks not standing still.
Not even going to argue that. Where did Mike V go?
Right here.
Oh.
Someone has their hand raised.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Jay Charles.
Hey, Jay Charles.
Oh, that's what's up.
Hey, Charles, what's up, baby?
Oh, what's going on?
Yo.
The mic is breaking up a lot. Put some volume on it.
How about now? You hear me now?
Yeah,
pretty good. Pretty good.
Right.
Good.
Man. Yeah. So great hangout tonight. I know Complex and Mike, you guys you're already doing a startup already, and Mike, you've been a part of other startups, right? And I think what the issue is in our community, we kind of like, some people think like that's like something that they can't do. It's like it's maybe it's a mayonnaise culture thing or whatever, right? But you know, as far as embracing that, like what do you think is the biggest issue why a lot of people don't embrace that tech startup company? Because I think a lot of people I speak to have ideas, but they just don't follow through with it.
No, but
They
it's
haven't-
it's access to funding. So that's the biggest problem for Black people is access to funding.
Well, I'll say this. I'll say this, man. The prototype that I had designed on the OSV platform, to do a prototype for the rolling chassis, I got a very it was a local hot rod shop. So they built like drag chassis and shit, right? And so brought my laptop over there. They were around the corner from my shop. Showed them what I wanted to do. They were like, they were like $9,000. We'll build the roller for you. $9,000. Now we're talking about another 4,000, and I would have had all the electrical components for it. Now we're talking 13 grand. You know, so it's not as if the money isn't there to pursue these types of things. We just don't have a startup culture where investing in ideas and things like this is commonplace. That's the problem.
Well, see,
That's
the
why
big thing,
the hangout that we're going to do next week, we're going to deep dive into what it takes to actually build something like this. It's not what y'all think.
let me just say this too, Complex. We don't have a venture capital culture either. We don't have a VC culture.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. That's it right there.
And if we had more of that, we would see a lot more startups. So we're not putting dollars behind ideas.
Right. You're absolutely right. That's really what it is right there.
And we need to be financing that.
I look at the culture. I look at the continent, right, and they're on the move. They're there's a lot of startups that are popping up. I'm like, okay, what are they doing that we can learn from them that we can implement here? Because they have less resources than we have. Than we have. So it's like, what are they doing differently that we're not doing? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I just went over the articles, right? The National Institute of Health denying grants to Black scientists. So, and we also went over the artificial intelligence being used to artificially draw Black people into diversity and inclusion. So what's happening here is we're up against institutional roadblocks of racism. So in one instance, we can blame our own unwillingness and ignorance and things of that nature, but we also have institutional racism for those who can actually perform. And so we have to kind of come together. When we look at like YouTube, for example, in the ministry, how many super chats are flying around, a lot of that could be utilized for venture capitalists on a microfinancing scale. And so
Mike, you're hitting it so hard in the head right there, man. That's like bang, putting the nail right through it. That's the bottom line, and we have to really, so we can talk about racism, we can talk about institutional racism and systemic racism and all that. That exists. The man, these guys out here, at times he's going to try to stop you. That's just how it goes.
I think
the bottom line.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say this. The bottom line with us is we have to really look at how to start investing with ourselves. Once again, I keep going back to this. I'm going to sound like I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but I will. Every $10,000 that we put into the banking system, only 4 of it goes to our own banks. $4 out of 10 grand. That's a problem. So if we're not doing that in our own banks, we're not doing that with respect to everything else, really, when it comes to economics, and really self-funding. You can sit back here and talk about it. You can look at these Jews, these Filipinos. You can look at many other ethnic groups, these Syrians and all of them who come here. All right, Nigerians who are doing
Jobs it. Was Syrian.
They're funding them. They're helping to fund themselves, man. These guys are doing it. They understand, that this is what we have to do because nobody else is going to do that for us. We are a sanctioned community. We've had sanctions against us from day one. We're no different than Iran and any other foreign nation inside of a nation.
Cuba.
We have Cuba. We have sanctions against us. They redlined you. They sat back and moved you out of the school system, put you in inferior schools and threw you in places where you didn't have any money to raise cash from property taxes to get better schools and so forth. You were sanctioned there. You're sanctioned in every way. You're sanctioned from voting. You are a sanctioned community. So we have the ability, since we're inside of the beast, we do have the ability to extract what we do get and feed and really help to feed ourselves. First, there are other areas that we can go with respect to government and so forth, and really put a lot of pressure on the system to work more for us. But there's some things that we can do that we don't have to lift one federal finger on anything, and just start to put more money into our economic institutions that do exist. Would go a long way, and it would go a long way in moving us down the road.
Yeah, it's a small reroute of intercommunal flow of capital, right? So we're basically appropriating dollars that we would put in other things that really don't net us a return, and we're saying, actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 30% of that, and we're going to actually re-divert that over into this vehicle here, right? And that is a burgeoning tech sector, right? Like that's kind of where it starts, because see, there's money flowing within the Black community. It's just flowing in a whole bunch of places that don't benefit us.
Because we don't put it in a central repository to feed ourselves. That's why.
Oh.
All right. If we're looking at around 20 million adults, 20 million adults over the age of 21 or so that we may have here in the United States that we can call Black people. Mm-hmm. Suppose every single one of us had a bank account, a Black bank account. Black bank account.
Raise your hand if you've got an account at a Black bank.
And you were putting minimum of $10 into that account, minimum of $10 into that account, where they can't close the account as long as you at least have $1 in there or a cent in there. So you can actually have an account that can be there, and then the people who have more wealth and bigger dollars can help to subsidize that, make it more of a public bank, if you will. But we can talk public banks, but think about what kind of dollars you would have in there, just on that alone.
Well,
just the kind of money you would have there alone.
You
would have hundreds of millions to close to billions of dollars in there.
Gabe posed a question in the chat. He asked, why doesn't TBBT, the Black Brain Trust, use Super Chat for venture capital purposes? Because you cannot, based on the stipulations that YouTube has in place with how they garnish at least close to 40% of the earnings.
Not only that, but there's also the whole Security and Exchange Commission's question, right? About using funds for capital investment purposes. Is there any obligation to those who gave you the money in the event that there's an equity gain of some? I mean, there's a whole entire slippery slope of legal, but I will say this, other things that are going on, it really just kind of fits what is taking place right now. So just for the aforementioned reasons why Super Chats aren't leveraged for venture capital investment, there's the alternatives are being pursued. Let's just put it like that. Yeah,
and realistically, with all the injustices that have happened to us in this country, at least in my lifetime that I've seen, I know previous generations have seen a lot more as well. But for all the injustices that they have that have been impacted on Black people economically, the sort of sanctions that the Goan is talking about that they put on other countries, they put it on Black people first before they put it on other countries. And so you would think that there should be some talk about social equity, in terms of justice, right? And you talk about getting social justice, being social justice advocates, a social equity platform that would derive microfinancing into predominantly Black areas so that you can actually be a part of that emerging economy would actually make a lot of sense. And where Black people don't have to fire a shot. I mean, they've done it for legalization of cannabis, but the point in the matter here is that we have to fight this thing politically. in order for this to actually take fruition. So
We gotta have. We also have to have. We can't. We gotta have business aligned with the political agenda, right? Like we got it.
It all has
That's
together.
yeah. We gotta have both.
It all has.
Yep.
Yeah, it all has to work because it's a cycle. It all feeds. It all feeds. On each. So you have
What
to
are we
have
passing legislation for if we don't have entities to capitalize on said legislation?
we have to get that, and we have. See, this is the thing. We do have an infrastructure for this. It does exist.
Mm-hmm.
We just are not utilizing it. Somebody wrote here in the chat. He was talking about somebody. He said black business people have 750 plus credit scores and are not getting funded by some of these banks, and that's exactly correct. Their interests are not about you. Their interests are funding other people. They're not trying to fund you like that.
Well,
They ain't trying to fund nobody.
well, I think the other thing
they ain't trying to fund you like that. You're sanctioned. They don't care about you. You put your money in there. Chase, Wells Fargo. I'm supposed to feel good about them, man. They can kiss my sweet. You know what? Forget these people. We got to go elsewhere, and we got to pretty much deal with ourselves. We start doing that.
We have. Okay, just a few minutes ago, you asked about black banking institutions and who has an account at one. You have the institution there to use. The institution's there to use to provide the funding vehicle.
They're here, and
we already
and they would have to fund you. If you're putting your money in there,
think about it.
These banks, they're gonna have to fund you, man.
It's already there.
They're gonna have to fund your ass. So forget
if
about.
If we dump the money in, and we mandate, especially like if let's just say we're talking about a credit union, for example, right? See, so credit unions are member owned. See, so that means if a group of people came in and dumped a pile of money into an account or a fund and said, "Hey, this is what we're going to use it for," guess what happens?
A credit union only takes 100.
Go ahead, Mike.
And since it's member owned, they're going to be like, "Okay, this is where we're going." That's it. That's the end of it. So the bank that turns you down for 750 credit score, you walking in with a 750 credit score, and they turn you down, which would be, a gray boy bank. At the end of the day, you're like, "All right, man, see you guys later. You're useless to me. I don't need you." And then you have your own situation where you can get the funding, and and it's within their interest to drive business, because that's how they're gonna make a butthole full of money. That's just how this thing works.
Look, you want to know an easy way?
This is not rocket science.
You want to know an easy way to start up like black-based like tech investment clusters? You use platforms like Start Engine. Shout out to the brother Q who's in the chat here. Because there's some Marathon related stuff that we're putting together here, and we're kind of throwing around these different types of investment vehicles that could be used not only for soliciting investment, but also actually buying into or buying equity stakes in various tech firms that already have, say, like patents and things of that sort. See, so there's vehicles that we can tap into. If you think that all we have is a Chase Bank to go to, or JP Morgan to go to, or a Bank of America go to, to have access to the resources needed to acquire things like equity stakes in other tech firms, startup investment, startup capital and stuff like that. There's actually other vehicles that are available that we could tap to utilize this. This is where the realm of fintech comes into play, as we've talked about.
Yep. Right.
You know what I mean? There's all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's, we have to become more literate in fourth industrial applications. We really do, as it pertains to our own daily lives. Not only that, but the things that it is that we ultimately want to do in terms of our own participation in this.
And the fourth industrial revolution, okay, will run on the mother's milk of business life, and that's money. All right, you're gonna have to have funding to move a lot of this forward. You're gonna have great ideas. There are a lot of very, very, very smart and very brilliant Black people in the diaspora out here. Very brilliant people. We can see this. And we have a lot of them. There's not a shortage of them in our community. There isn't. What we do have is a fairly serious level of undercapitalization. One of my good friends, he's a banker. I talk to him all the time. We talk about a lot of stuff. And, and he was dropping some really, kind of, serious facts on me. And of which I should have known, but I didn't. And he began to edify me a bit as to what's going on out here. And it's disturbing. But yet we can actually change a lot of this ourselves without one federal mandate or without one act of Congress whatsoever to do this. We can do this right now just by literally communicating, putting money together, getting into banks, and and start to fund our ideas. We can do this very quickly.
And Gabe thinks
within 5 years,
yeah,
very quickly.
And Gabe is very passionate about the BBT doing this. Because he said, well, look, just form a 501(c)(3), do it, go. Okay, it's not as if you can't use that type of entity to do something along those lines. I don't know. I've always been a for-profit LLC type of guy. So, I've usually structured my businesses based on LLC law. I'm not really a nonprofit guy, but perhaps you've got some guy. I don't know. I'm always game for a challenge. So,
Well, you can use a non-profit and have that own like 49% of a for-profit business.
Just like a minority stake.
Yeah, and then you take that nonprofit money and throw it in that for-profit, and that's how you get the business funding.
That's how you get okay. Well, I'm not going to say that.
It's kind of iffy.
Well, I was going to reference kind of how some of the weed businesses has been done.
Yeah,
but anyway, yeah. So, okay, no, I follow.
No, I really think that a public banking system would have actually worked very well with predominantly Black neighborhoods, places like Baltimore, Chicago, where you had a good portion of the population that consisted of
absolutely.
They would have had full control over these things. But institutional racism is real, and I don't think people really understand how that really works, man. They're willing to they're willing to drop a bomb on a general of a major country in broad daylight. You can imagine what they're doing to Black people, what they've done to Black people over the years, man.
We've been under Iranian type sanctions for the last 150 years. So we've definitely been a heavily sanctioned community. We know it. I know a lot of us start to blame ourselves for it, but the institutional game has really has been there. But it can be fought and it can be beaten. I think relatively, when I say easily, not easily, but it can be beaten. The only thing we have to, people need to do is public banking system, or just start going into your, Black banks in your area and start opening up accounts. I mean, I think that's where I think first starts. And I think other things will branch out from there, but that's where this starts.
Well, let me follow up on something you just said, right? Because I think that at least for me, I'll kind of speak for myself in this position here. I'm more critical of us for, let's just call it, the self-imposed sanctions that we place on ourselves, right? That puts you at an added disadvantage. I think that's largely where my source of frustration is. Again, there's a notion of this idea that, we come off a bit arrogant, pompous or whatever the fuck. Doesn't really matter. But what we ultimately recognize here is that given the very realistic challenges that we can see here, we don't deny that institutional racism exists. This is kind of what we're speaking to. we understand these realities. So a lot of the things that we speak about are like strategies that actually head that off, because, you know, everybody has their own mechanisms and ways for carving out how they're going to own their piece of this planet. Okay. And, you know, we seem to be like the only ones who kind of come to the table and say, well, you guys don't want to play fair. And everybody else kind of looks at you and says like, okay, can you point to any point in time in history where anything's ever been fair? Okay. So what it would be incumbent upon us to do is to, you know, play to our own strengths, do things that are in our favor, that enrich us. That doesn't say that, you know, you have some sort of ill feelings towards other people or anything like that. It's just that, you know, you understand that like you are important also. So you will do things to ensure that that importance is actualized by conducting commerce, not only with each other, but the rest of the world. Okay, you know, it shows that you feel as though you have some value of yourself and that you have something to give to the world. Like we really do have to like change our perceptions on this type of thing. And the first step towards doing that is investing in ideas.
Well, that's where it all starts, man. You have to, everything starts with an idea, you know. Everything starts with an idea. You know, I heard a Spanish term, you know, que vive siempre son ideas, lo sea personas. And what that means is what lives forever are ideas, what dies are people. So, ideas are forever. You know, there's always going to be some new idea coming up. There's people will live and die, but ideas will constantly be rolling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there are ideas that have been put out here hundreds of years ago and are still rolling. So yeah, ideas is where it's at. The name of the game is to make, it's just to put these ideas into practice and make them.
You gotta fund them.
Fund them and make them work for us.
Gotta fund them
all the time. So
yeah, shout out to Richard Victor Dixon, man, because he and I we had a pretty deep discussion about this stuff as well, just a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, man.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that we know. We just have to put this into practice, and I think that's a big part of it. And we don't need any federal moves or anything like that right now. It's just really black people saying, "Listen, I'm gonna put my money in a black-owned bank, not one of these black fronts, but a black-owned bank that will look to serve its community." We have to think about this. We have to not only think, but we have to start doing some more of that. That's not the only answer, but boy, I can tell you, it's definitely a massive, huge, giant step in the right direction.
Yeah. And look, fintech is an entirely new industrial sector, man. Like that's the thing. It's not even like as if this is some, we must do this or else. It's like, well, okay, there is kind of that, because then you just kind of become subjected to the industrial changes and then the societal changes that come about that as a result of that. But in addition, there's also the fintech side to this. So there's a whole other financial option, if you will, that's coming on the horizon. I've always pushed for, I got my little Robinhood account. I got it plugged into, my little bank accounts. I dump $20 in there every month and I buy some stocks or whatever. And dude, that's like the shit. I'm just buying that shit and stocking. That's my daughter's shit. And that's what I do. Or, I use Robinhood for that. The platform itself has even grown to now you can get a debit card for the account that you have. So you can, if you needed to, we could withdraw from your stock earnings. And it doesn't take you it doesn't cost anything to open up a Robinhood account. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. I mean, oftentimes it's almost as if it was like we're battling about this type of stuff, when in all reality, if you really just kind of look into what it could do for you, you'd see that it doesn't require anything from you, really. It doesn't require nothing from you other than you saying, hey, this is what I want to use this service for. And then it says, okay, well, this is what our service provides. So great, let's do business. I mean, that's kind of how this shit works. We have to really start thinking differently. You know, get out of this very, very, very Luddite, immature way of thinking about shit, man.
We have to think a bit more collectively, especially when it comes to economics. And we don't need, and you don't have to put zillions of dollars into a bank. You can have small deposits. You know, I'm looking at some of these banks. You put small deposits in, and these banks are taking $10, $15 charges out of there every month. For what? For what? What are you paying these sucker lades for, man? What's this about? These guys, and then you can walk up there with a 750 credit score, and they'll tell you, nah, man, nah. We don't like you though, and they mean it. You know.
All right.
I think about real quick. I think about like Tulsa, right? And I know you said that the money moves around that community like what, like 200 times or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So it's like
it was a wealthy community. It was one of the wealthiest communities in that state. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, I guess like us backing each other, as far as investing in each other ideas, like that's really where it's at. Because, you know, again, you just explaining is just, I think the issue is that we just don't know. I think a lot of people aren't aware of that, you know, microfinancing and just black banks. I think a lot of people are just thinking that, well, you know, I got to just put my own money in. I don't have no money or whatever, and I'm stuck, you know. But I think it's just more of people are just illiterate as far as just in finding other investors, especially their own. They just don't know.
Well, the old term was, well, if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
So now it's time for us to get in the know and start to you know, make some moves. I am not putting my money in white banks anymore. Not doing it. No. That's over. I'm finished. That's over.
Oh shit.
That's it.
Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates for the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Document description beneath the video for you to reference. If you're looking to get into IT for the first time, we do offer IT mentorship. If you're trying to go from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you have a resume or a cover letter that needs to be looked at and have questions about salaries and wages, we do offer counseling in that. If you are in the tri-state area and you are looking for IT contracts, the Gold 11 does have recs on the table. Try to get in touch.